the 8th video in the series of the language of research. Today we are going to discuss about types of data. Well, there are two types of data, quantitative and qualitative, and typically data which is expressed numerically is called quantitative, and if it cannot be expressed numerically, it is called qualitative data. But this is one of the very general way of identifying quantitative and qualitative data. Understand, when we say this term numerical form, if it is in numerical form, means numerical form, the number it is preserving all the mathematical property, right? So you could add, subtract, you can do your mathematical operations, and the results by applying these mathematical operations, still that things make sense, right? Suppose if the profit of a company, the amount of share a person purchases, all these things are numerical data, quantitative data. So whether how much money is there in bank account is a quantitative data. There all kind of mathematical operations can be carried out, and then there is everything it has a meaning to it. On the contrary, you have let's say PNR number of passenger 1 and PNR number of passenger 2. Yes, they are expressed in terms of numbers, but yes, they are just a mark of identity, nothing beyond that. So they are not quantitative data, right? Next is what is qualitative data. We normally understand qualitative data as data which is expressed in terms of words or text, but it is much more than words or text. Your photographs, videos, sound recordings, and all these things will come under qualitative data. So qualitative data has a lot of comes in multiple variety. There are different colors to qualitative data. Earlier, based on the kind of data which is there and the approaches, researchers largely debated on whether we should try to explain the world more in terms of quantitative or qualitative side. So the distinction definitely had some utility, but making a too hard a distinction is going to bring more problems, or it's not required, it's not desirable to make too hard a distinction. Why? We'll see. You will always find people who are more inclined more on one of the sides. The people who prefer quantitative over qualitative, you always see quoting the quantitative data is hard, rigorous, credible, scientific are the main reasons why we should subscribe to quantitative way of explaining things. Your research should by and large be quantitative. So yes, they could be speaking from their own experiences, or because of the especially if you talk about material science, physics, pure sciences, you will see a lot of quantitative data, a lot of mathematics involved, and that is why this data is very much structured. You could verify it, you could measure it with preciseness. That is why, and it allows you to do a lot of statistical calculations. So that is why people have always this inclination of quantitative data. whereas the champions of qualitative side would always argue that qualitative data is sensitive and it is nuanced, detailed and contextual. So definitely highlighting that the huge scope qualitative data covers, right? So quantitative data works under the mathematical logic only, whereas qualitative data has far beyond existence. So but we have to understand that both data are intimately related to each other, and especially in 21st century when we say a lot of data scientists are coming up, so a lot of professions in data sciences are emerging, then you never see qualitative data expert or quantitative data science. It is data science. So in data science you require both kind of qualitative as well as quantitative data. And very importantly, let's look at this thing, like all quantitative data is based upon qualitative judgment. Let's pause. Let's understand this statement first. Suppose a researcher is trying to measure construct social esteem. So what he is going to do, social esteem. So maybe a researcher is trying to develop a scale or a survey. He would start with some questions like how to define social esteem, what is social esteem, how is it different from some related concept, how to measure it, how to frame questions, right? And how to what are the under what context people would be giving answers, or what would be are there any language or cultural barriers to it, or are there, so he would be interested in exploring all these sides. So what is actually he has to make a lot of judgment in developing a construct, right, a scale, and that is happening with the researcher who is creating that instrument. Let's say someone who goes into the field and collects data. For him, he would be interested in with his questions like whether this instrument is reliable, whether these constructs are valid, right? So these things, again, he has to also undergo a lot of judgment, qualitative judgment. And even the respondents, they would also try to judge. So judgment is something which is common irrespective. If you could see, right from making the instrument ready to getting it filled by the respondent requires a lot of qualitative judgment on the part of all the agents, the people who are involved in this process. So understand that qualitative data is based upon qualitative judgment. All quantitative data is based upon qualitative judgment. And then all qualitative data can be described and manipulated numerically. Let's take an example of binary square similarity matrix. Let's say you have 10 statements given, and what you will do, you will try to look into, you will come up with observing the items, evaluating them, that what is the underlying idea which is presented there, and then you try to club the ideas which are common or related with some more underlying construct. Let's say statement 5 is equivalent to or comes closer to 8. If it is not exact match, still they are close. The same is true with 6, 2, 1, 9, 3, 4, 10 and 7. So what you are doing, you are actually creating a 10 by 10 matrix 10 statements, so 10 by 10 matrix. And why is it called binary square? Because it is a square, 10 by 10, and binary you use digits 1 and 0. So for all the statements which are representing the same concept or close concepts are given 1, whereas the concepts which are different from one another are given 0. So you started with 10 statements, but you now have successfully categorized your data in 5 categories. So that is how your qualitative information is converted into quantitatives. You could do some analysis into it. So reflecting in this video, we have discussed about qualitative and quantitative data. We were extensively discussed about qualitative judgment behind quantitative data, and we also got some idea about binary square similarity matrix. Before we close, pause this video and read this statement to understand the connection between quantitative and qualitative sides of things. Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted. So beautifully it was explained by Albert Einstein that you require both the things, quantitative and qualitative, not one of them. So this is all for today. Thank you very much. We'll keep posting more videos, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe.